Good evening, Hex Scriveners, and welcome to episode 46 of Two Turns Ahead, which we are calling Are You Not Entertained? I'm your host, Michael Allen, known as Zubrin the Arrogant across the land. Naturally, if I were any character in the arena lore, I would be Archmage Renlock, the Chancellor of the Academy of Cerulean. Today we are recording on Friday, February 6, 2015, and we discuss the Frost Arena, outside the pack strategies and hacks, and we conclude by opening a pack before we get outside the pack, or well after. Our second co-host tonight is the engaging, energetic, and entertaining Nicholas Podrasky, who is better known throughout the community as the smarmy Canadian Penta Chills. Naturally, Nicholas would be Gerhard Hogarth, as his descent into madness began long ago. Hogarth, what has been your best arena experience so far?
Inviting people from across the land to join me in battle, to help test my armies before I march forward with... Well, that's irrelevant.
Okay, so Penta, what has been your best experience with the arena so far?
Oh, hey, I didn't think you were going to introduce me so quickly. It's literally been public every single time I've done this, but I made a really interesting Shinhair deck with a couple pieces of working equipment that turns what is normally a bunch of, I would say, terrible, Shinhair cards, like not fantastic. They're mostly starter cards. None of them are $2 cards, and was able to mostly sweep the arena with it a couple of times, pull off some crazy moves. It works really well. It actually uses a piece of equipment for a card I don't even put into the deck, which I actually think is also really clever. I've had a lot of fun. I can't wait to have equipment. Really wish I had a chance to be a Grand King backer now, so I just had all the equipment. Not Grand King, I suppose that's producer, but yeah, gotta go get me a producer tier now.
Good luck with that. Our third co-host is the ever-likable Matt Miller, who goes by either the name of Deck of Many Things or Deck of Destroying the Community by his very existence. Matt naturally would be Crispin, a human scholar and mage of the Order who claims to know everything about everything, and his head currently resides on Hogarth's Pike. Matt, what has been your top moment in Arena thus far?
I was really hoping I was going to be ahead on the Pike. My top moment has to be a fight I did this morning versus Zarlox the Broodlord as the third boss I was fighting. And he has, if you haven't played, he has a brutal deck, and it destroys you, it mills you, it does everything it can to kill you, and I had one chance of Benoshing my own Darkspire Tyrant and hoping that I got damage. And I did, and I beat him with 1 health left. So that was really fun and exciting.
Sounds like it. So, we have a couple different topics before us. Before we get into the first topic, I should remind people that you probably have 2 or 3 days left to sign up for the Ruby Cup, which is happening February 14th through the 15th, and also submit your deck list by the hour before the tournament starts. So, if you're listening to this now, sign up for the tournament, and we'll see you on Saturday. Our first topic is everything about the arena. As you already know, this past weekend, which is our present, but will be your past, Cryptozoic has opened up the test server so we could all play the arena. The event started off with a 22-hour streamathon marathon where first Corey, followed by Alucard and Penta, and then several other streamers showed us everything there was to the arena, warts and all, both the good and the things that also didn't quite work quite yet, but eventually we will have on the live server. We will first have an overview of the arena and then talk about a couple different deck lists that listeners can put together to try to deal with the arena, and then maybe talk about where we're going to go from there. So Matt, do you want to give us a brief overview of the arena?
Sure. The arena is a gauntlet of battles versus a variety of opponents who each have their own unique deck, their unique champion power, and most likely a global power that's affecting the entire battle for both you and your opponent. There are 20 battles, like I said. There are more than 20 opponents, so you get a kind of random playthrough every time. It's broken out into 4 tiers of 5 battles each. The 5th battle is always versus a boss. And the first tier 1, the battles are kind of meant to be a little easy, totally beatable with starter decks, and
draw from a smaller pool of opponents.
Draw from a way smaller pool of opponents, and it always has the Eternal Guardian as your tier 1 boss. So even if you've just got a starter deck, you'll be able to farm tier 1 to your heart's content, get some gear off the Eternal Guardian, and get gold off of all the other champions that you face. Only the bosses drop gear. Every other champion drops gold. As you progress through the tiers, the champions' decks begin to have equipment equipped onto them. And PvE equipment adds crazy effects onto cards. It basically gives cards more abilities, different abilities, deck building changes. It's just, there's a whole gamut of things they can do. And then at the 10th, 15th, and 20th battle that you do is also against other bosses. And these bosses, of course, are tougher than normal. They've got tougher decks. As you go through, you can lose up to 3 times, and each battle's not best of 3. Each battle is a best of 1. But if you lose against a normal champion, you just move on to the next champion. Okay, I couldn't beat Mentor of the Grave. I've just moved on to the next champion. That works for everyone but the bosses. The bosses you have to defeat until for you to move on. And, defeating the boss will, get you the gold and gear into your little kitty on the bottom corner. Show you how you're doing. So if you get stuck in a boss, you basically have up to 3 defeats on a boss if you got there without being defeated at that point, before you're done with the arena. Defeats can be reset by perfecting a tier or completing the MC challenges. Various times Hogarth, the MC of the arena, will pop out and give you a challenge and say, I need, this thing is going on and blah blah blah, do this and you'll get a buff in the next boss fight. And it might be easy, it might be totally hard, it might be impossible, it might be bugged. I've seen all 3. So it's fun. It's, the arena, it's a great way to play Hex. You get to see a lot of different things. And you get to see basically the power of the game in the fact that these champions have powers that you've never seen before. There's global effects, equipment, like I said. It's just a blast.
So before we get into decks, a couple of questions for the both of you. First of all, do you think starter decks are capable of completing Tier 1, or at least doing the first couple fights in Tier 1?
I am not just confident they can. I have used all 4 base starter decks with 0 equipment to perfect Tier 1 as it stands right now, which does mean a couple of things. First of all, I don't think we've ever been confirmed that the first 5 fights are actually supposed to have 6 cards in hand at the start before mulliganing. But even if they don't, I still think it's possible. But it's entirely possible that the AI was just forgetting to perform certain actions or play certain cards. I don't want to take that away from them, although I believe they are currently playing to the, in good enough standing that I can make the judgment that I believe starter decks will be able to, with no modification.
And they've said on the forums already that they'll be continuously looking at that Tier 1 fights, and if it looks like that it's too hard or even too easy for a starter decks, they may adjust it a bit so it's achievable. It's something that you can work towards too, and they also don't want to deter players by just smashing them the first 2 fights they get into. It's like, oh, this game sucks, I'm going to leave. So they seemingly want to make sure that's a positive experience for players. Matt, what's the most entertaining hero power you've seen so far?
Oh man, going over my my list here. I've been working on a list of this stuff, and I realized I actually haven't written the hero powers down. So it's not Zarlux of Broodlord's hero power. It's the arena power that fires off at the beginning of the arena, where it sticks 3 brood eggs into your deck. And when you draw or bury a brood egg off the top of your deck, it turns into a Terrorantula, which is a 5/5 troop. And that troop, when it comes into play, murders a troop, just destroys a troop. So, and Zarlux is milling you the entire game. So you are most likely going to get 1 to 3 Terrorantulas hitting the board, a 5/5 troop, and losing one of your own just for drawing.
It comes into play under his control?
Yes. So
that's a really neat mechanic.
Yeah, it's brutal Zarlux, and it's fun.
The bosses specifically, because what the arena is working with, I mean, we've kind of touched on it at this point, but what the arena is almost specifically working with is a certain amount of mechanics. Like, dungeons aren't here yet, and they're going to play a lot more heavily into the game. But there's a passive ability sometimes, there's an MC challenge sometimes, and almost all of the champion powers used by the enemies are both unique and tailored to the troops themselves, to the champions themselves. Like, their decks are built around the idea, which is awesome, but the bosses seem to take that to, like, the next level and have pretty busted ones. Zarlox in particular is about as close to an actual dungeon fight as we've seen so far.
So what's your favorite champion power that you've seen so far in the game?
Oh man, there are a couple of them that I kind of wish we had access to as actual champion powers, perhaps with balance. A lot of them have dual thresholds to try to balance them out, although that's not really an issue most of the time. I think I like the passive ability of the Avenging Angel quite a bit, where at the beginning of the game, 4 cards in your deck when you draw 4 troops. When you draw this, it gets put into play immediately, much like an Angel of Dawn.
For both players.
For both players.
Oh, okay.
I think that's pretty cool because it actually destroyed me on the stream again. I was literally nothing but the thing that he top decked really could have saved him at that point, and he top decked it, and he put this 7-cost PvE card into play for free, and it was this Flight, Steadfast, Life Drain, 800, give another target troop this many, like Flight, Life Drain, and Steadfast, and throw your opponent's cards in the ocean. It was really mean. I was sad he threw them away, but there's another one that I'm actually particularly fond of, just kind of like a very small passive effect, but the Paladin of Nagon, which is, for those of you that don't remember this card because you never look at it in draft because it's absolutely trashed here, the Paladin of Nagon is a diamond 5-drop, double diamond threshold 3/5, and that's it. And it's this necrotic cleric, and in the arena, I believe his champion power is... I'm not sure if it's his passive power that I'm thinking of, but it's his champion power is he gives +X to target troop, where X is how much more health than you he has. And I think his is the one where every time he gains health, a card in his deck, or a card in your deck, if you're the one gaining health, gets +1/+1, but I might be mistaking who has that.
Following up to that, what's the best or most enjoyable challenge you've encountered so far? Penta, if you want to start.
Well, the rewards aren't currently implemented.
Sure. But
going 20-0 is supposed to give some specific rewards. And it's actually a little, like, getting through the arena with, like, a tier 1 deck isn't impossible. Like, I was able to take Gore Knights pretty successfully through 20-0 once, but most of my runs go 19-0 because a lot of the encounters actually end up being a lot more difficult, I would say. Like, it doesn't matter what you bring into the arena, you can't build around every encounter. And because we currently have a pool of champions to fight from, and they've said that pool of champions is going to increase over time, you can't say, well, I need to be ready for Zarlox when you're not sure he's going to be one of your fights.
Sure.
So the challenge is making sure that your deck isn't just good, it's versatile.
That's an excellent response, but I also was looking for the Hogarth challenges.
Specifically the Hogarth challenges. No, I don't think anyone else is going to deal with this. I'm not actually sure it's still a challenge in the game. I haven't encountered it. But we got access to the test server a day early. I say we, I mean those of us, the 7 streamers who stream on twitch.tv/hexccg daily, so that we could prepare for the event. And it was a different test build, and one of the challenges just gave your opponent 3 baby Yetis on turn 2. And it was bugged at the time. The only time I encountered it, it gave the Psychotic Anarchist, who has a passive ability where every troop entering play gets +1 attack, 3 Baby Yetis on turn 2, and he just swung into me with them, like, after playing 2 more Baby Yetis of his own. So he did 10 Baby Yeti damage to me in 1 turn.
Did you win?
I did actually win that game. I've seen that MC challenge hit one more time, and I think that it gave both of us 3 Baby Yetis. I would have to say that probably the most challenging one, if you don't have a way in your deck built for this already, there's a health challenge that says win the encounter with 30 or more health. I think that's the one people are going to ignore most often.
And that's against the Psychotic Anarchist, which does a ton of damage to you.
Was not
it's
just
random. It's random.
Yeah, the MC challenges are random.
Yeah.
Nice.
So when I played I took an Orc starter through for the very first time because I wanted to see how a starter deck was going to perform.
Which has no blood auras in it, or
no blood auras.
Blood auras in it.
Yeah,
and no life gain at all at that point.
No life gain at all. I got the MC challenge, but I got it on the Dragon Guard Stalwart. And he's got his arena passive power is when you gain life.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, okay.
You get a troop in your deck gets +1/+1.
That one's awesome.
And I got the challenge on him, and I was like, okay, but it gives you an Ivory Pawn just to help you out.
Well, because there are not enough cards in the game that give you health.
Right.
Like,
so,
you wouldn't just be able to expect it.
Yeah, exactly. So I was able to get to 30 health, which is what you need to do in order to win it, with the Orc starter against the Dragon Guard Stalwart and defeat him. So I was actually, I was like, okay, yeah, totally doable. I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm really good at the game, but a person who just came into the game is not going to be able to do that because I was having to pull tricks out my butt in order to pull it off. But it is possible, and that was pretty fun. As for the Baby Yeti one that you got, I think it's still in the game, but it doesn't do Baby Yetis anymore because the text that shows up there refers to Baby Yetis. They have the attention span of Baby Yeti.
The attention span of a Baby Yeti.
But now it gives a mastery of time.
Oh,
and I think it's bugged because
that doesn't sound.
It stays on the chain every time.
Yeah, okay.
And I think it's supposed to basically play Mastery of Time on every turn, but it's not happening. And so when he pops up as MC at the on the first turn of the game,
so it's a current
whoever's
bug,
turn it is gets 2 turns. But then it's normal from that point forward. So
Matt, do you have a favorite challenge so far?
I would probably say, I'm trying to think, other than the Ivory Pawn challenge and the Mastery of Time challenge, think of what other challenges I've played.
There's one
I got a Cerebral Fulmination challenge because he wanted to speed things up, and he drops the Cerebral Fulmination, and I draw my extra cards, and then I look at it, I'm like, wait a minute, that's a Ruby card, and I'm playing against a wild deck. So I time rippled it back into his hand, because it puts it on his side of the board. So then I didn't have to worry about it for the rest of the game, and I still won. So
what was the challenge?
It was basically, can you survive with this free Cerebral Domination that he puts out there?
Oh, okay.
So, you just win the game.
Yeah.
A lot of them are win the game. I think only the Ivory Pawn challenge is the only one I saw that do a specific thing.
I'm not sure if it's still in there. Once again, man, maybe I shouldn't. Well, if it's not still in there, it should be. One of the ones they were considering, which might still be in there, is deal 10 damage in 1 turn, which we got the day before, and was actually really cool. Dealing 10 damage in 1 turn, a little bit harder than, for some decks than others. There's a couple that changed the board. Now that you mentioned the Cerebral Fulmination one, there's one that puts an Inferno in on your opponent's side of the board.
Nice.
What I would say as a suggestion, I doubt that any of the developers are actually listening to this, but on the off chance that you are, I would give those cards created Spell Shield or remove their thresholds, because a lot of times you can circumvent them by time rippling them to your opponent, and they don't have the thresholds to replay the card, and you're just like, victory!
That's not what I sounded like, but it was close.
Well, you were on Mumble, and you might not have realized that your mic was open, but
Okay, last question before we get to the decks, and we'll start with Penta. What's the best or your most favorite piece of equipment you've seen so far?
What's the best or favorite piece of equipment?
Correct. You get to choose how to answer the question. Or both if you are inclined.
Okay, so... this is a really loaded question because I've actually spent like basically the last 2 days looking at equipment. Like I have a lot of this equipment already like kind of thought down in my head, but I haven't really had time to read through, like to actually like figure out what they do, like to think about how much I like them, because there's cards like there's a piece of equipment for the Infernal Professor that puts a random non-resource card from your collection into your hand, and you remove all thresholds from that card. So basically any card in the game. I think that one's really cool. But then there's also ones that are just super crazy powerful. I think if you were to like try to argue with somebody like what's the best piece of equipment, you'd never be able to like figure this out, right?
Sure, because it's a subjective question.
Yeah, no, obviously it's a subjective question, but like there's things like I showed this on stream because I think it's amazing. Your Mastery of Times have escalation. I think that is absolutely bonkers because it gives a win more card even more win more. Like that's just the best way to describe it. It's like Mastery of Time normally voids itself after you play it because it's such a powerful effect. But instead of that, they give Mastery of Time. When you play this, it gets escalation and goes back into your deck, and then the next time you play it, you take 2 extra turns, and then 3 extra turns, and then like at that point you should win. But I mean, you could chain turns infinitely, and it's also comboed with a second piece of Time Mastery equipment that means that on the free turn that you play, you get twice as many resources, which opens up quite a bit more into the game.
Mastery of Time presently in the meta is not a win more card. It's and it's mostly used in Mono Sapphire. It's like I have 4 or 6 damage on the board with evasion. I play Mastery of Time, I can win with that 4 or 6 damage. That's fair. Escalation. That's definitely win more.
Yeah,
I'll take 3 turns.
Exactly. The piece of equipment that I would have to say, maybe not that I'm the most excited about, but that I can see being the most useful, like one of the most traded / sold / sought after cards, is the good old Boulder, which I'll talk about a little bit later because I have it included in my deck as one of the cards. The good old Boulder is a card for Boulder Toss, which is a Ruby action that says target troop that you control deals its damage to target troop or champion, and it just doubles that damage. Just very plain doubles the damage of Boulder Toss.
That's silly. Matt,
yes, it is silly.
Yes.
Your favorite or best piece of equipment you've seen so far?
My client's having a bug right now, so I can't get you the name of it, but Penta probably knows it offhand. It's the one piece of equipment for Living Totem. It's the one that when you give a buff to Living Totem, it applies the buff to all copies of Living Totem in your deck.
Yeah, that thing. Both pieces of Living Totem equipment are insane, but the one you're talking about is the Helm of Many Faces, which is actually broken. Well, not broken. It's very cool.
It broke my client, is what it did. So
get wrecked.
Yeah, because now it can't find my Living Totems anymore in the card collection, and yeah, it's all broken.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the 2 decks we're going to talk about. For both of these decks, we will make sure to have them on the blog post that accompanies the podcast. The first one will be Matt's, and he'll be presenting a more advanced version of a deck to deal with the arena, something that you can use to grind out lots of wins against the arena and arena bosses. And the second deck will be done by Nicholas, who will be giving a deck that's kind of a beginner's deck that someone can reasonably put together on a limited budget. So Matt, take it away.
Sure. I built a deck that is heavily based on the Darkspire Blood Sapphire deck that I like to play. It has 6 pieces of equipment. It does a lot of tempo control early on, which is fantastic against most of the arena bosses, because if you can keep them having to replay a bunch of their cards through Time Ripples and Buccaneers, then you can set yourself up for some big swings and some big hits and stuff. Very quickly, 4 Buccaneers, 4 Time Ripples, 2 Countermagics, 4 Cerulean Mirror Knights, 4 Life Siphons, 4 Eldritch Dreamers with the Gravedigger gem, 3 Xentoth's Inquisitors with the minus attack power gem, 4 Darkspire Priestesses, 2 Darkspire Punishers, 1 Darkspire Tyrant, 3 Rise Again, 4 Shards of Cunning, 11 Blood, and 10 Sapphire Shards. And for the equipment, I have in the head slot the Eye of the Soul Leecher, which gives your life siphons can target up to 1 opposing troop in addition to an opposing champion. So it's kind of you get to drain your champion of life or the opponent of life, as well as take out a troop at the same time. That's pretty good. The chest is the Mirrorplate Chestguard for the Cerulean Mirror Knight. It basically gives the Mirror Knight his own power. When the Mirror Knight dies, draw a card. The boots or the feet slot is the Siphoning Boots, which goes on the Xentoth's Inquisitor. When this troop deals damage to an opposing champion, you may play a card in that champion's graveyard with a cost less than this troop's cost without paying its cost, ignoring threshold requirements.
Wow.
Yes, especially when you get your, Inquisitor up to like 8 or 10. And in this deck, he can be 5/3 pretty easily because I run Benoshi as the champion. So he's pretty good. In the Trinket slot is the Sworddancer's Limp for Buccaneer. The Buccaneer has, if that troop's cost is 2 or less, increase that troop's cost by an additional 1. So it's, even better tempo control. In the hands slot is the Flesh Reave Gauntlets. Your Rise Agains have that troop gets +1/+1. And in the weapon slot is the Darkspire Longblade. So this changes Darkspire Priestesses, who normally are, you either deal 3 damage or you search your deck for a Darkspire card. Okay? But now it changes. There's 4 different random effects it can be. It can be 6 damage. It can be 3 damage and draw a Darkspire card. Or, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3. Or draw 2 Darkspire cards out of your deck. Put them in your hand.
So, you are one of the biggest advocates I know for Blood Sapphire in general. I'm pretty sure I could script a bot for Skype that would, every maybe 2 days, it would say, so what about Blood Sapphire, into whatever conversation we're having, and I think it would be a good representation of deck of many things. Well, not every 2 days.
Me, yes.
I actually really like the deck as well. I feel like I almost ran it for the Hextech Open, but then I probably wouldn't have top-8 it.
Well, I'm just saying because Matt has a strong love for the deck, and he did very well with it in one of the Hextech tournaments early on, and has been playing testing it in every meta since then, trying to see where it works and where it fails. In regards to PvE, why do you like it for the arena? Is it overly flexible?
It is very flexible. I've run it against all the bosses. So I've been doing an experiment of, writing down the cards in my opponent's decks as I see them and as I defeat them. And, through my plays, there are several champions where I only have 3 cards written down because that's all they ever played against me, before I defeated them. Especially with the tempo control between Buccaneer and Time Ripple, unblockable Eldritch Dreamers hitting for 5/5 or 7/7 off of Benoshi buffs, and then, grabbing Buccaneers back out of the graveyard, things like that. It's just, it works really well, especially against the arena champions.
And what do you think is the biggest weakness of the deck in its current iteration?
The biggest weakness is any of the champions that have when enters play effects or when leaves play effects on their cards, because that makes the bounces a lot more difficult for you to, just use willy-nilly. And any enemy that mills you. Since you're doing a lot of card draw off of your Cerulean Mirror Knights, you can be buried. Sorry, I know Penta was dying.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind that one too much.
All right,
Yeah.
you can actually get taken out with a zero card deck pretty easily.
Also, kind of sounds like not to be nitpicky, but like, do you have much flight in there?
I don't have any
And
flight.
I realize you have ways to deal with flight,
Right.
like obviously with the life siphons having. Did you say you had murders in there?
No murders.
Okay, well, I mean, like, obviously if you were having trouble with flight, you could add some more.
Right.
But and this is just personal experience here. I'm not going to go too much into what cards I think they do and don't have, because I've seen most of the deck lists at this point just by playing them a bunch. Some of the enemies have a lot of flight. Yep. Some of them have none, and so it's like this goes back to what I was saying before. Is it's really hard to just gear up against something specifically. But sometimes the turn 1 Thunderbird is all like caca, and then it smacks you down real hard. Which actually happened to me today on the Hex TCG stream. I was playing against the Eldritch Dreamer, who played a Thunderbird, and then his champion power is when target troop you control gets the Cerulean Mentalist effect of when it deals damage, draw a card. And he just smacked me 5 times in the face with his Thunderbird and then went home cackling. It was just like, okay.
Now, is there a particular champion that has a lot of come-into-play effects on troops?
Well, there's a couple of them that are very heavy on Inspire.
Right.
Okay.
Hero of Adamant is very heavily inspired, and his champion power is basically Time Step Magistrate.
Except for any troop. Which doesn't matter. I think he's only running humans, but it's still worth mentioning.
And the arena power for that one is whenever a troop leaves play, there's a 25% chance it makes a copy of itself, and that remains in play.
Which is hilarious.
That's pretty good.
I think I would say Minario Sensei has a lot of enter the battlefield effects. Whether or not they're relevant to what was just mentioned.
Hero of Adamant was actually very difficult to fight with bounce because of that 25%.
Yeah, most of the Inspire ones would be. I can't really think of any that are just like super heavy on enter the battlefield effects, but I think that's because there's not many cohesive enter the battlefield effects yet. If that makes sense, like Inspire is about as close as we have. There are a lot of interplay effects. But not a lot in certain clumps or themes. Not enough to make a champion around.
You can make a deck easily. It's just whether or not they've gone out of their way to do so.
Yeah, of course.
Because I've faced decks before with a bounce type deck, and it's just be like, oh, this is a miserable experience for me. I like the deck they're playing for that reason. So, I mean, if that's all your deck is having difficulties with, that's pretty good. I mean, there's 20 fights, and if 5% of the fights or less than 5% of the fights, since you may not even get those champions, are difficult for you, that's pretty good.
I mean, and we have to understand, the AI in this is not final, and it makes a lot of mistakes. It doesn't play cards for some reason. And
there's another little touchy bug where the 6th through 10th fight is supposed to have 2 pieces of equipment always, and then the 11th through 15th is supposed to have 4 pieces of equipment always, and then the rest of the fights past that have 6 pieces of equipment always, and that is currently not always working as intended. I think it has to do with the way they shuffle the champions at the beginning of the fight, and this ties in with what you were going to say. I wasn't cutting you off to spout this point. Is there are a couple of times where you come up against a champion that should be playing, their deck is based on what they should have in equipment, and they don't have but yeah, it's mostly I would say it's still challenging in the same way some of the starter trials are still challenging. I've lost games with tier 1 decks. I've lost games with Blood Diamond Control. I've lost games with Gore Feast. I've lost games with just ridiculous board presence already. Like, some of the champions can overwhelm you, just like the life guy. Any of the ones that gain life. The health gain champions. Crazy,
so,
great.
For an advanced player, your primary goal is going to be min-maxing your deck such that you can grind Arena as much as possible to get all the gold and all the loot so you can sell them on the auction house or do whatever you want with them. In regards to that, how quickly do you think your Blood Sapphire deck is winning on average against the average AI? Either time-wise or what turn is it winning?
Between turns 6 to 10 on average.
Okay. So it's a healthy mid-range deck?
It's a healthy mid-range deck. I mean, some games just are like, we're in this for the long haul. But, I can generally stabilize. I can generally turn it around. And, I also want, when things get more stabilized and those MC challenges become more working and in and known, I definitely want to make sure my deck can deal with them and do them, because when you complete an MC challenge, you're going to get bonus loot, and you're also going to get a buff versus the boss when you fight the boss of that tier. And that buff can be starting off with a troop, or starting off with charge, or 2 charges. I think it's 2 charges. Yes, 2 charges. Or starting off with 1 resource, right? So you're already, if you go first, you're already well ahead of the curve. So getting those buffs is actually pretty key. And so you definitely don't want to ignore the MC challenges if you have any chance of succeeding with them.
Any other comments, Penta, or questions?
I think that covers most of it. I really like the Darkspire deck. I mean, there's also a lot of things you could bring into that deck, like monsoons and whatever, like suit to your own flavor.
Yep. So
spice as necessary.
The second deck that we are having is Penta's deck. It's more geared towards new players. He's already done this once, and that was on the Hex main channel stream, which happened on Thursday, right? Or was that Wednesday? Wednesday. Okay.
Thursday for some places in the world. My stream was kind of late, PST.
Everything has melded together recently, but you did a Shinhair deck. You mentioned that at the top of the program, and it's fantastic. You could probably build it on a very limited budget, and you may be able to get the cards just from grinding gold and picking them up. And Penta has put in the extra work to present us a second deck like that for a player who may want to look at something other than Shinhair. So, Penta, take it away.
Okay, so now for the Shinhair deck, I specifically looked at a couple of things. I made sure I had 6 pieces of working equipment. This deck does not. And I specifically made sure that I checked that all the prices were reasonable. Somebody with $10 could have built that deck. At the time that I looked at the prices, when I presented it on stream, some people were like, no, that card is worth $2 now. But it wasn't at the time that I built the deck, so build as is flexible, and those cards could have been replaced. So bear in mind, I'm about to give you a deck that is not necessarily tier 1, but is certainly an improvement over the original Dwarven starter deck. These are my second favorite race of the 4 original starters. And the first thing I did was toss out the War Machinists, the Cavern Commandos, the Bomb Smiths, and the construction plans for the War Hulk. Naturally, you would do this slowly over time. These are not things you would all get rid of to begin with. But I slowly worked up to a deck list that runs 24 resources as a split of Sapphire, Ruby, and the Shards of Innovation. 12, 8, and 4 in those respective orders. 3 charge bots, 4 Gearsmiths, 2 plans for the construction, for the Ingenuity engine, 4 research librarians, 4 technical geniuses, 4 construction plans for the Tower Hulk, key component, 3 Boulder Toss, 4 Ingenious Engineer, 4 Tarot Bot, and then 4 of whatever you want. I have Drew's Colossal Walker in here at this current moment because it plays very well with the deck, but you could run Oracle Songs, you could run a couple extra charge bots, charge hulks you could run here. It's kind of a flexible spot. There's a lot of interaction going on here, and most specifically it comes down to the equipment, which I didn't save the names for, but I'll try to get right. The single most important thing is you have research librarians. They don't necessarily have a piece of gear attached to them that I really cared about. I guess I kind of did. They had a feat slot that said that the card you drew with them got cost -1, so it allowed you to spam the board a little heavier. I think there was a better foot slot out there, but that's just one that you'd be able to find. But there's not a whole lot of artifacts in the base of the deck, not enough to make it consistent. So what we did is we took the head slot, the Brass Eye Accelerator for the Technical Genius, which simply reads that you can exhaust him to reveal a troop from your hand, and then that troop becomes an artifact troop.
That's neat.
which is part of the combo with the deck. You could argue that you could keep the War Machinist in and then get more and more damage pings in that way. Not a huge deal one way or the other. It's more specific to the fact that you're turning things into artifacts, which makes your research librarians more powerful. I put in for the body. I was running Drew's Colossal Walker, and there's a chest piece, the Mangler Armor, that says that for every troop blocking it, Drew's Colossal Walker gets +2 attack, which is pretty awesome all on its own. So if they want to deal with Drew's Colossal Walker, if they want to actually prevent damage from coming through, they're going to have to sacrifice a lot, bearing in mind that your Drew's Colossal Walker is likely to be readying itself after its attack because you should have an Ingenious Engineer out. Now, adding up to all of that, the Ingenious Engineer is where I decided to put my Trinket, which is the Imagination Drafter, which currently reads, when you draw an Ingenious Engineer, you create a random plans card and put it into your hand. I cannot think of a plans that would be bad to draw with that effect because it's free cards. But, maybe somebody can correct me there. I don't know. And the keystone to the whole deck is Boulder Toss. Boulder Toss's piece of equipment, which we talked about earlier, the good old Boulder, double the damage of Boulder Toss. The whole idea of the deck is that you swarm the board with your Charge Bots, your Gearsmiths, your Tarot Bots, your Ingenious Engineers. You have a chance to build the Ingenuity engine just for fun, and because it's a cheap card. And then you either win by pushing damage through with Drew's Colossal Walker, building a giant Tower Hulk and crushing them with that, or simply building a 10-point Tower Hulk, which is very easy to do considering you're running Betram, the champion who creates a worker bot for 3 charges, and the Ingenious Engineer, and then just throwing a double damage Boulder Toss at their face.
You've played a lot of Tower Hulks recently. What's the biggest Tower Hulk you've made in a competitive match?
In an actual competitive match, I have this screenshot in our Skype chat somewhere. It was 58 or 57. It was possibly 64, but I think I might just be thinking of that number because it's an integer.
You built a 20-something against me in one of our very first drafts.
I did, and I gave it flight with a
launchpad,
a launchpad specialist that came up. But specifically, I had to build a huge one because my opponent was gaining a lot of health, and I didn't have another way of stretching over him. But then I eventually turned it over, played a Boulder Toss on his face. He said, "No good game, cheater," and left. And I was like, and that's why I have the screenshot. I was like, Zubrin would be proud. But in the arena environment, there's not a lot that stops you from throwing a Boulder Toss at your opponent. Dwarves can generally be fairly defensive, and you have a lot of options. Terrorbots in particular are 3/5 bodies with flight, which help you deal with a lot of the flight in the game. Gearsmith, if you wanted to replace the feat equipment, allow you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, which is pretty good. I think that actually might be better than the Research Librarian equipment. You could also put equipment on, say, your construction plans that allow them to put worker bots into play when they come into play, and I mean, there's a lot of versatility there. Obviously, you won't get to choose what equipment you have at the beginning unless you're one of the producers, and even the dungeon crawlers and all that won't have unlimited access, so equipment is more or less as it comes, but the equipment combos are what make these decks fun, in my opinion.
Do either of you know how many epic or rare pieces of equipment you have with your decks right now? I imagine you don't offhand.
Well, it's hard to say, right? Because
the ones that we put in these decks here.
Yes,
I have one epic and 2 rare.
Okay.
I believe all of mine are rare or less. The Research Librarian one was rare, but I strongly believe you could replace that with the Mechanics Boots instead, which are the Gearsmith's equipment. The Boulder Toss one, which is crucial, is uncommon. The Body for Druze was common. Yeah, I think I had one other rare in there. I don't remember what it was. I think it's the Ingenious Engineer. When you draw this, reveal it random plans.
The primary market for equipment is likely to be gold. There will definitely be people selling equipment for plat. But given that most of the PvE players will be dealing with gold on a day-to-day basis, there's likely to be, in the very short term, the equipment will be expensive, and then there will be a glut of it, and the price for the equipment will fall, though the rarity of the equipment will still adjust the price. And I can see free-to-play players being able to get all the equipment that they want for their decks. And in fact, they're going to be able to get, in the long run, legendary and rare cards based on just gold alone from grinding. This is partly... Now, they've said that the gold rewards for Arena will be adjusted. But Penta, when you did a full run, a 20-0 run of Arena, you got about 16,000 gold?
Yes, and then those values very heavily changed in the next patch.
How much did they change? Did they go up or down?
It seems to be... I actually, maybe it's the same roughly, but the values are different between the tiers that you completed. Like, completing tier 1 no longer gives you the same amount, but completing tier 4 gives you more than it used to, was what I saw. That being said, Charsky was on the streams while I was going at the arena, and he did state that these are not the final values anyway, so we're not supposed to read too much into them.
Yeah.
But I mean, they would say that anyway, so we got to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I would say that it's likely that it's going to be like somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000 per 20-win arena run.
And it took you about 4 hours to do that?
3 to 4 hours, depending. Like, I got up, I had a life in between that, but I was running a fairly quick deck at the time. Infamous Neo, who is well known for his ability to stretch $1 into 100, told me he completed it in 2 hours, although his timestamps stated that he started an hour and a half earlier than his time finishing. So I'm just saying, maybe he was stretching the truth.
I imagine they're going to have to boost the gold, because that is a far worse rate than drafting or winning a draft. Obviously,
well, but there was implication that would be the case.
They did imply that would be the case, but I don't think it's that much. Actually, I think it's about on par. 15,000 to 20,000 for 3 hours is...
Yeah, you're thinking about winning a tournament.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Winning a tournament is 20,000. And while I don't remember what it's like to lose a tournament, that's total nonsense.
I haven't seen 20,000 in a long time.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. It was total hockey. No, but if you get second, it's only 15,000, right? But then everything below that's like 7,000 or less, or something
10,000.
like that.
10,000 and 5,000.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you get 5,000 for at least entering,
right?
I suppose. But those values are supposed to disappear when we get the arena. Whether or not that still happens is up in the air. But
I think they've changed their mind on that recently.
There has been rumblings from within the camp that they were going to change their mind, but then other people said, no, we're not changing our mind. So
yeah,
it's still up in the air.
There was an official post, and I'll have to double check that to know for sure, because I remember Charsky saying something new about that discussion, and I don't have the orange post in front of me. So I probably shouldn't say anything without knowing for sure. But this was within the last month.
Yeah,
I mean, I really do hope that they remove the gold from that. So, I think it's having it purely from PvE is the way to go in the long run, especially since so many of us need so much gold just for our chests.
Yeah, from a game designer standpoint, I actually was concerned on this point that gold was going to be a lot harder to get in the arena than just playing a draft, and looking at the numbers and the time investments and seeing how within the same ballpark they are. I'm actually kind of glad.
Well, then after this, we're going to have to evaluate how much gold you get out of dungeons. So we're still going to be waiting for the next piece of PvE. Like, That's really what it's going to be like. Is does the next dungeon give more gold? Maybe there's a dungeon that will be particularly good for finding gold. Maybe the arena is the best place to find gold because 4 out of every 5 matches you're guaranteed to make some gold. Well, I mean, as long as you win.
Okay, I found Chuck's post, and he was just reiterating the official policy that they are not going to be keeping gold payouts in tournaments.
Yeah,
and because someone was asking him to rework the gold payouts for tournaments, and he said that's not really worth our time since we're just going to drop them soon anyways.
Now, does the Minotaur Mercenary still have that piece of equipment?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. and just for the sake of enlightening our viewers who might not have looked, the Minotaur Mercenary has a piece of equipment that simply reads that when it enters play, you may pay 100 gold to give it permanent +1/+1. It's currently still in the client. It currently has art, a name. It seems to have a dedicated theme. It's not working, but it might make it live with that particular thought process. And it's the only card in all of them that had anything to do with gold. So it was very interesting on its own. It fits with the theme of a mercenary, but I mean, first of all, Minotaur Mercenary probably isn't going to be getting played even in PvE decks. I can't imagine, even if you have that piece of equipment. But it does add that thought that maybe one day down the road there will be a card that simply reads, pay for 50,000 gold to win the encounter after you play this card, and oh no, stuff like that. Maybe gold is going to have more value. Maybe those of you with 3 million gold stacked up are the real winners today.
I don't think any person with 3 million gold is a winner. So.
Well.
So before we move on from Arena, let's talk about the implications or where we are with Arena right now. What are the biggest issues before it goes live? Penta?
The AI.
Okay.
The AI is the first and most immediate concern, and a lot of people point this out. They are actively looking at a thread where they're asking, hey, please tell us what the AI is doing specifically wrong. Certain charge powers weren't being activated, although some more of them are being activated in this most recent patch, I noticed. That's cool.
We've gotten several patches since the test server went live. Penta, you said there's been 3 so far?
Today.
I believe there's been 3 today. If you want me to go over Arena shortfalls, I've got a list of personal opinion shortfalls and very specific ones, but the AI immediately comes to concern, and this is gonna pain me to say it, and I know that a lot of people are gonna harsh on me, but the lack of content in the arena currently is going to be a bit of an issue for some people.
What do you mean?
Well, currently the first 5 fights draw from 6 champions, and the next 15 fights draw from a certain number, many others. There's about 5 bosses. Your first one is always Eternal Guardian, and even though the decks differ, and I realize more is coming to this, but it currently is an issue that I've run the arena a fair number of times. I've done a lot more 1 to 5 than I have 1 to 20, or 5 to 20, because you're allowed to skip the first tier after you've perfected it. But I mean, I can see people getting, oh, look, I got Avenging Angel, Stormcloud, I got these 6 same champions again and again and again. So even though I've built a really cool deck, I don't get to challenge anything. Now, we know there are 2 secret bosses, and the more of those they add, the better I think it's going to be.
Previous point you just made, so we don't jump back to it. If you skip the first tier, do you still get the rewards from those tiers? I assume no. Okay.
No, you don't. And as it stands right now, there's no concrete evidence as to whether or not the first 5 fights draw from. They definitely get less gold, from what I've noticed. I can't be 100% sure. But maybe you can still get any piece of equipment from the Eternal Guardian fight, so maybe it's always worth going through your 1 to 5.
Well, and if they're faster, it may be worth it too. Just for
they are. They start with 5 less health each. The Eternal Guardian fight is most of the time a total blowout.
If you have a fast deck, you're gonna take him pretty quick.
Yeah, even most of the starter decks can just crush it. it has to get fairly lucky with its opening hand, but I mean, it does benefit from not having to play any shards ever. Spoiler warning.
So yeah.
Don't go too much into it. Leave that one for them to find. That one's kind of cool to find out your first time. If you haven't seen it, go have fun with it. The Eternal Guardian doesn't play shards. Woo! And does play some absolutely brutal endgame troops. Oddly enough, not Eternal Guardian.
Well, none of the champions have themselves in their deck.
Right. Yes. Which sucks because Minario Sensei could really use some Minario Senseis. But yeah, you probably get sick of those first 5 fights because they're almost always the same. That's my shortfall.
On the plus side, they're just best of 1. So
they are just best of 1, which also possibly a shortfall. No reason to build reserves. No way to compensate for your deck's own shortcomings. And I think this might be a thing with PvE. I don't think they intend for reserves to be a PvE-related thing. I think that's kind of what the mercenaries are there for. But you can't build a deck that has no flyers and just, no way to deal with flyers, I guess is the more important thing to say. And then just say, well, I'll put 8 cards in my reserves that help me deal with that. And then if I ever run into... the Eldritch Streamer is the first one that comes to mind. He specifically in his introduction says that he's a master of the skies. If you run into him, okay, now I guess it's time to put in some defense.
You bring in your mercenary when that becomes an option, which it currently is not.
But it will be in the arena. Right. They confirmed.
Matt, things that you think need to be fixed before a released version comes out to the live server?
A lot of the equipment, as Penta mentioned, does not work.
What percentage of the equipment currently works?
I don't know. I would probably say 30 to 40%, but that's just a guess off the top of my head.
Okay.
24%.
Okay.
Quick math off the top of my head. They gave us one piece of every working piece of equipment, and some of the equipment I've found... there was a bug that let me equip equipment I shouldn't have, and I went through some of them, and some of them worked. So, I would say it's a fair
the
point.
ability to equip equipment you didn't own. So,
well, whether or not they unlocked it, it's been in every build that I've played. So, but yeah, there's more than 200 pieces of equipment that currently work of 955 total pieces of equipment.
Okay.
So there you go. Yeah, and so getting that working, getting right now AA cards can't be equipped, or if they are equipped, the equipment doesn't work on them at all, because it doesn't see it as the same card. So that kind of broke my deck a little bit. I was like, why doesn't this equipment at all work? So
yeah, I think that's something that'll be like really easy for them to fix. Sure. It's just the current way that I think that while they're testing equipment, I think the current way it works is when you have the equipment equipped, it replaces the normal card in your deck with the version of the card that has the ability that the equipment would give it. So
I should also mention that Matt has particular insight into the development process because his other handle is MMO designer, because he is and has been an MMO designer.
Right.
So in
designer
chat,
is really
he always mentions things that are more particular to the case of what Cryptozoic has going forward.
Yeah,
has to deal with.
I don't have any direct insight into Cryptozoic's process. I can infer a lot of things from things that they've said, things that I've watched. I can tell that they're on a branching system, and that what we're looking at here with the arena is likely either their next branch. They probably have a live operations branch where they can make fixes to whatever's on live right now, and then they have a branch after that, which this is on. And whatever fixes are done to the live operations branch should be inherited into this one. But there are still a lot of bugs that we've seen on live now that are still on the arena, like Eternal Drifter, the Fishersmith, things like that. So not everything, not every bug that we've seen in the since the Shattered Destiny came out, has been fixed. For those of us who have investigated down those lines.
So given what you know, and given your experience, if you had to give us a timetable that's not official at all, when do you think we're going to see Arena in the live client?
I've actually been super impressed with the speed and quality of the patches they have done since Wednesday or Thursday.
For anyone that doesn't share a Skype chat on the regular with Matt Miller, who is the gentleman speaking right now, he's the single most pessimistic person I've ever met in my life. The glass has never been half full for Matt, as far as I know. So to hear him say that is a pretty good sign. He generally speaks up as in, like, oh my goodness, everything is terrible and blah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Sure you don't.
It's weird how everyone has no idea what Penta's talking about all the time.
All the time.
I know. I just 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we're gonna see this in March at some point.
Wow.
So first quarter release.
So yeah, and that's just based on like this, all the stuff I've seen fixed since
not
Thursday.
With every piece of equipment, not with all 955 pieces of equipment, but they can slowly add working equipment to the drop pool.
Sure, yeah.
So like, if the AI was good, I think this could have been live. That is not me speaking out of it, but if the AI was a real challenge right now, I think they could have added a couple of things, real quick touches, like the polish that needs to be there. Like there needs to be some better sound effects. There needs to be a little better UI going on during the frost ring. And when you open your chests, not just not your actual chest, but those should as well have a classy animation. Your Frost Arena rewards chest, there should be a little bit of a showy thing, because that's kind of what the digital interface for Hex has always been, right? Like, when you open a pack, you've got to watch it swirl down into Kismet's pool, explode with that sound effect, and the cards pop up in front of you. It's something I think Corey has talked about a lot, where he's like, he wants everything to feel very dynamic. And currently there's a couple of things they need to polish for that, I would say. But other than that, it's looking pretty good.
So if you had to estimate, would you agree with Matt's estimate, or would you change it?
I've always been very optimistic in the time. I guess I've been wrong like all the time when I say that, but I was hoping for late February. I think seeing the number of pieces of equipment that aren't working right now, March is a much more likely a bender at this point, but I think that it looks really good. One other thing I think that's the shortcoming that we haven't really mentioned, because we were still talking about that, I hate to bounce back to it, not a whole lot of PvE cards to earn yet. I realize that a lot of those are going to be coming with dungeons down the road, but there's only like 40 pieces of PvE card that a player can use right now. And I don't think that's enough yet. A free-to-play player is going to need more PvE cards than that.
To get as rewards. I mean, they'll have access to PvP cards to the secondary market, but that's not going to be intuitive to a lot of new players.
Yeah, well, no, exactly, right? And the biggest reason we haven't thought about them is a lot of them can't even be put into your deck right now to actually work. But, like, I guess that's something that won't take them a whole lot, because, like, creating more cards for PvE shouldn't be a big deal, but I don't think the Frost Ring was ever designed to have a ton of them in there.
Right.
This isn't a dungeon experience. You're not supposed to be finding dungeon-specific cards. The arena is something that will supposedly be there for a good long number of time. Like, even after you're done with dungeons, you can go and do the arena as a side thing. And, you know, like, if you do a Shinhair dungeon, chances are Shinhair cards and Shinhair-related cards will drop. But for the arena, what do you make drop? And I don't think we have very many Frost Arena specific cards yet. And after seeing some of the cool artwork that was redone for the champions and put into there, it would have been nice to see a couple.
It looks like there's 50 total PvE cards, of which we get 17 as possible and that includes the ones out of chests that we've already opened.
It's 84, I thought.
Really? Okay, maybe I miscounted.
number varies.
Right.
Less than 100. PvP has set 1 had 350x cards in it. I don't know the exact number. I'm not some sort of trivia master. And a lot of the PvE cards that we can look at are specific for the AI dungeon, for the arena cards.
Right.
And even then, they don't have a whole lot of those. So a little more work with that would feel cool. I'm sure it's coming. Like, this criticism from me is just me verbalizing ideas. I don't necessarily know what their plans are for those or not, but it would be nice. It'd be nice to see a couple of, like, snowmen cards, like 2 or 3 different snowmen cards.
Why does it have to be snowmen? Why not snow women?
Oh, snow women.
Snow children.
A snow mancubus or a snow womancubus. I don't care. But, just something that's, like, related to the arena, or even just, like, a Ruby card, like, cheers from the crowd, give all your troops rage 1 for the turn, just like a simple... Like, I don't design cards. Like, I'm not sitting here trying to actively design a card. I'm just saying most of the PvE cards that are actually on the client right now are things that we've been rolling in chess for a very long time. Some of them are cards that are played only by the enemy, and some of them are sometimes rewards, but nothing that really stands out as, oh, a free-to-play player will be looking for this card.
See, I design cards, and so I would like to see a 1-cost artifact called Hogarth's Original Arm, and when you play it, he comes into the match and just looks sad, and be like, yeah.
He's just, like, really unhappy that it's there. He's like, oh.
Magical Ice instead, sorry.
I say that, and there is at least one card specific to the arena. If you don't want it spoiled, I'm not going to spoil it, but it is there. I doubt that card will drop anywhere else.
Okay, that's nice and vague. The thing I'm looking forward to is actually the first and or second dungeon, just to look far in the advance, because I think the biggest challenge for Cryptozoic and Hex is to make a adaptable platform where they can easily plug in the elements of this dungeon and make it go live. That's their biggest challenge, to continually push out PvE content and not have it wait months and maybe put off other PvP sets. They need to be developed and come out in tandem to make both parts of the player base happy. And so I think that's kind of the long-term goal, whether or not they have to build each one from the ground up or if they just have to change a couple different elements. In terms of the arena, I've yet to play one arena game myself, partly because I'm a PvP player. My identity is more as a PvP player, and if I played through the arena right now, I probably would get tired of it pretty quickly, so I'm going to save that for live when I have to grind it for a while.
You don't have to grind it.
What do you mean?
There's no reason for a PvP player to play the arena.
But
I'm
also a collector.
Oh, okay. There you go. I mean,
right. I could obviously just PvP to get packs and then sell the packs and then use platinum to buy the stuff I want to collect for it, but that seems a little bit less efficient when I can just grind for it and then sell my excess. And then my PvE stuff, so I might as well use it. But, so thank you too for both presenting decks that you've been working on, doing the extra work. We'll make sure those go out with the post. And also for carrying the conversation, since my contribution to what is going on with the arena is relatively minimal. Like, yep, it definitely exists, and I watched some streams about it. The second topic, as we transition, is one that we got email about, and for the last couple of weeks, we've made a concerted effort to talk about draft a bit more, because we've been talking about Constructed show after show, and people were getting not necessarily tired of it, because we're not ever going to stop talking about Constructed, but people have been playing a bit more draft lately than Constructed, and they want some balance between what we talked about in terms of the metagame, as well as the theoretical and the meta-based approaches to talking about draft. Specifically, Duzran, and I'm probably mispronouncing the way he pronounces his handle, emailed us and gave us 3 or 4 different topics, said he really liked the draft idea, and he wanted the suggestions. The last suggestion is the one we're going to be using for today. He said, finally, another topic that would be great is some out-of-game drafting tips, like e.g. keeping track of drafts using spreadsheets, using a notepad to make notes, etc. It would be awesome if you guys spoke about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it, i.e. why it's beneficial. So this is not necessarily going to be a long conversation, but just things that enhance our expected value from drafting. And I know Matt has had exactly 1 hour and 10 minutes to think about this topic, so we'll start with him. I have a list of things I can talk about, but I'll let you guys take items off the list as we proceed. So go ahead, Matt.
Sure. What most copies of Windows from Windows 7 on...
That's how an interesting conversation starts.
Has
Most copies of Windows
has a program in it called Snipping Tool. If you just go to your search bar, you can type in snip, and then it should show up. It's a little scissors icon, and
with a circle.
And Snipping Tool is great because you can basically grab a screen region, and it just puts it on your clipboard and in its own little window. And one of the things I like to do is, since I have terrible short-term memory, I will Snipping Tool my draft deck, so I know what's in my draft deck, so I know what outs I have going forward. Do I even have any way to defeat that flyer? No? Well, why show my opponent any more than I already have? So that's a really quick, easy, out of game thing. I've
never thought about doing that, so that's actually pretty neat.
I personally don't do a spreadsheet to tracking my wins and losses. I do save every mail that I've got for a tournament prize where I came in first place. That's a lot.
So you've got like 4 of
I
those.
have like 14 of those. So my last one was 2-1. So
why do you only save the winners?
It's just, it started with, the first one I got on, 5/17 was,
back in 014.
Back in May, was you received 5 set 01 booster packs and 2 primal packs.
Ooh.
So, and then it was like, wow, I'm saving this one forever. And then it was, and then it just became a thing I did. So I don't know. I don't really know why. It motivates me when it's been a long time since I've won. And I think the longest streak was between 10-19 and 12-6. That was the longest time I went without a draft win. So, that was, it kind of gives me a little personal motivation to go forward.
Now, I not to cut too much away from the topic, but just as a real quick heads up, in case you haven't seen this, haven't touched the test server, speaking of mail, cash on delivery with expiry available soon. It's on the test server. So you'll be able to send cards and say, I want X plat, or you cannot claim this, and in 5 days, if you haven't claimed this, I get everything back.
Yep.
So.
And then let's talk during drafts. Zubin reminded me that I used to play poker, and there are some at the table things you can do, especially online poker. There is a phenomenon called on tilt, where you basically you make a mistake, you do something stupid, or your opponent does something you didn't expect, or gets really lucky, and you get mad, and you get irritated, you get mad, and you're gonna make mistakes because of it. And there are a ton of websites out there with how to deal with being on tilt, especially for online poker. And a lot of those same things apply to Hex. It's a lot harder in the middle of a tournament to basically just, walk away from the table and go to a different table, like you can in or just stop playing like you can in online poker. But you can, take your 5 minutes. If you are really irritated and, someone got really lucky, but you really feel like you have a chance to win, stand up, take a walk, take your 5 minutes, just make sure you're back there to make your move, whatever your opponent's going to say, or you disconnected, whatever. Don't let your opponent goad you, right? Just breathe deeply, calm down, get a little zen, channel a little mantra through yourself.
Can you believe I top decked that extinction?
Yeah.
Lol.
Yeah. So,
that's an excellent piece of advice, because we have a person in our play group who's been experiencing some tilting issues relatively recently and has been asking for help, and Matt has been providing them some help as well.
Right.
One of the biggest things that I'm going to piggyback on this and interrupt Matt, which I already did, was when you're mad, or you're on tilt, or you're not on tilt but you're still mad, is don't rage at your opponent. And I've already mentioned this in previous casts, but it's always worth mentioning, is that first of all, we have a good community, we want to keep the community, but also Raging is something that's negative EV in the long term, because if you think your opponent's terrible and they just got lucky, you want to make sure that they remain terrible and continue to rely on luck when you play them in the future. The poker term for this is don't tap on the glass, because you'll scare away the fish. And so you do that by raging your opponent, making them have a terrible play experience, and they either stop playing or they try to get better, and you lose further money out of your pocket by doing so. So don't rage.
That's why there's so many good League of Legends players, because the fish are getting tapped all the time.
And so rage to your friends, not to your opponents.
Please.
Don't exhaust on the glass, yes.
So to steal from that, I think in over a year of Hex drafting now, it's been almost a year, right?
March.
Yeah, okay, whatever. It doesn't. Yeah.
May.
In almost a year.
Oh no, that's for paid ones. So yeah, it's been over a year.
In 16 years of Hex drafting, I think I've been actually angry twice. I'm actually, despite being as smarmy as possible and coming off like a total arrogant jerkbag, I like to think that I'm a pretty chill person.
5 kinds of chill.
Yeah, 5 kinds of chill. 50 Shades of Chill. And don't go and watch that movie, guys.
They're our sponsor this week. You can't say that.
No, I'll say that anyway.
So there were a lot of people who actually don't really have anything to do with the storyline of that movie, but they worked on the movie and were getting paid for that job. So I don't think saying don't go and see it is quite fair to those people who worked hard on that movie.
That's fair.
Off topic a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, the point being, like, even when I was mad, I didn't say anything to the person. I definitely complained about one of them on here. I remember I was salty about an experience, and I came here and I was like, I can't believe this happened. Like, I couldn't have lost, and then I lost. How does that happen? Oh, what's with the airline food? Which is how you should deal with that. You should go to your friend, you should go to your significant other, call your mom and be like, I know we haven't talked in a long time, but, yeah, some guy top decked Fisher-Smith on me last night, and she'll be like, what? And you'll be like, no, don't ask questions, just know that I'm angry, and she'll talk you down, because that's how that goes. Or anyone you're calling, any person you can, your friend, the guy you throw change to on the subway, stuff like that. Just talk to somebody who isn't your opponent is usually the best way to deal with it, because they'll be able to objectively look at it and say, well, stuff happens.
The most dangerous weapon in your arsenal is the enter key. Like, type out whatever you want to type and be as angry as you want to be. Just don't hit enter. Hit delete instead. Just take it all away.
Do that either,
get it all out, and then delete it all.
You never know when the client's just going to be like, let's send that. Oh wait, no, dude, I didn't mean that. I was
write it in Notepad then, if you're afraid of that happening.
So. Speaking of Notepad, my contribution to this is for as long as I have played online trading card games, I have had a pad of post-it note papers or something in front of me. I actually still have my StarCraft 2 Jim Raynor scratch pad in a drawer right here. You can hear me opening it. Ooh. And hey, my opponent played a murder. This is obviously a little more important for some sort of competitive constructed play, but it still applies to draft. My opponent has 1 murder. My opponent has 1 repel. My opponent has, this. So you write down the things that he has played that you significantly have to worry about. When you get to the reserves, whether you've won or lost, you look over that list to say, do I have any cards that can address those cards? And then during your next game with them, either stick it like above your monitor or to the side, somewhere where you can see it, and you can go, you're about to attack, and you look over and you're like, wait, he did have 2 repels, and he's held 2 resources open. Which then further goes down to, don't play in a limited format that you don't know the cards of. That's very, very hard to do at the beginning and release of a set, and it's not relevant right now. But if you play in a limited format and you're trying to make the most value out of things and you don't know Shatter Shield exists, it is going to blow you out of the water at some point, and you're going to feel really bad. Maybe not specifically Shatter Shield, but...
if your goal is to maximize your EV.
I mean, also on the notepad thing.
I mean, play it to have fun, but
also on the notepad thing, one of the things I've seen Light Reaper do is whenever
write down your mistakes.
Whenever he looks at his opponent's deck through Inquisition or a Spy or whatever, he writes down the contents of the deck, right? And so he knows. So it's something I should do with my terrible short-term memory, and I don't do, and I really should, is just write down what is in the deck that I saw. But I'm trying to train myself to remember things better. So
that's actually what I use a snipping tool for. Is whenever I spy or Inquisition, I take a screenshot of it just so I have it to the side, and basically. It's a lot easier if you write down eventually, so you can cross off the cards as you're playing them.
Well, snipping tool has a little pen tool where you can put an X through it after they play it.
So it looks like you're playing in Paint.
Yes.
Well, yeah, no, and I do, and I have written down through the Hextech tournament. I actually still have 6 post-it notes, one for each game I played, with cards that my opponent had and things I had to worry about. Matt, how many do you remember if I say blue, yellow, red, blue, green, green, red, blue, yellow?
Blue, yellow, red, blue, green, green, red, blue, yellow.
You got them all. See, that's good short-term memory. Most people can't do. I think 7 is where that hits. I think that was 8.
Wow.
The average is 7.
If I'd waited 2 more seconds, I couldn't have told you past 2.
That's fair enough. Usually those kind of tests come at you like they're like blue, yellow, red. Blue, yellow, red, blue. Blue,
right.
Yellow, red, blue, green, green. And it gets a little harder to remember because I don't know. I'm not...
The Simon.
But I know that 7 or 8 is the cutoff for most people. So, I mean, maybe try to find like a Simon program or something and play so you can do 10 or 12. If you don't want to be writing things down, try to improve your short-term memory.
Sure.
There was a time where you had to play Simon in World of Warcraft, and instead of just trying to memorize it, I just typed into guild chat. I didn't have to do it in guild chat, but I'm that kind of person where I would just type the colors into guild chat to let everyone know I was on that daily quest.
It wasn't a true Simon game, though.
And then True Simon was actually in WildStar.
Yes.
Yeah, which was actually kind of fun. Yeah, which is actually kind of fun. WildStar and the Simon. And then, like, just totally outside of the game, I suppose, like, the best thing you could really do is watch a stream or two. And don't watch my stream. If you're going to start doing this, don't start watching my stream because I suggested it. I'm not trying to get anyone to come and watch my stream because I mentioned this. But in, the card game that shall not be named, one of the biggest things that keeps the online client running is the fact that you can watch people draft on Twitch a lot of times. They actually have a really big Twitch community, and you save yourself the entry fee, you learn some cards. Depending on the streamer, you get to learn what those cards do, what situations they might be in. You might go, oh, Dementia Daisies are a little better than I thought, or, oh, Dementia Daisies are not as good as I thought. There's a lot of places to take that, and you can just watch one in your off time, have one on in the background, just passively pick up information. And probably the best thing you can do is watch their, maybe watch them on YouTube, watch them somewhere. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't necessarily have to be Twitch. Just currently, that's the best we've got. There's not a whole lot of YouTube content for Hex.
Are we talking about Gorfy's trading card game?
He's making a joke as to last week when you weren't allowed to say Gore Feast.
I know. I was just trying to let it deadpan. So if you could be in silence for me for a second, because
I'm comfortable with silence.
I know you are.
That's how I.
But then everyone's looking at their stereo or their iPod player, and they're like, "Did this?"
No, I'm sure there's some 4 or 5 loud, irritable beeps happening right now. And
no, they happened probably about 20 minutes ago. So
nothing moved on my soundbar, so they best not have.
Penta is the podcast equivalent of Andy Kaufman. He's just trolling you nonstop.
Anyway, watch those, and watch specifically the drafting portion, because that's where a lot of stuff picks up, and it's really hard to explain everything that you can do. There used to be a website, it's no longer a thing, but it was called Draft Magic, and it Well, I actually think Draft Magic might still be a website. That's not the point. I mean, let me go and Google it right now. It's on hiatus. And what they used to do was they had a team of 7 to 8 people who played on the Moto client, and they uploaded their videos of their draft with specific, this is why I'm doing this is why I'm doing this, commentary over the draft and playing process. But they broke the videos up so that you could watch the draft, round 1, round 2, round 3. Admittedly, most of the times you saw winning drafts, because why would you upload your round 1 total catastrophe? And sometimes when they did that, there was only 2 videos in the series and you knew it was coming. But the players in there, some of the were some streamers who I very much enjoyed watching. Derek Boyko, Josh Frankel. He's on my Twitter. I should know his name. Doesn't matter. Frankel, another Canadian, awesome streamer. Those videos really helped me draft Magic later. And I mean, maybe it's not for everyone. If you don't like doing it, that's fine. But that's something I would certainly encourage people to do.
A couple other things I want to throw in here for specific to...
Yeah, we're running low on time, Mike.
What?
That silence caught up. We're running low on time. That silence caught up to you.
So I do a tournament spreadsheet I've talked about on the podcast before. I'll make sure I link to my personal spreadsheet in case you're interested in doing so. But I track the tournament, the date, the time I played it, the cost of the tournament, because some of them are free for me, some of them are not. The shards I drafted, the archetype I was going for, which is shifted over time, the number of rares and legendaries I picked up, and whether or not those were value picks or were valuable cards, to check against my self-rare drafting, and then, of course, stuff related to winning and not winning. The format it was, any specific notes about it, sometimes links to the deck, and the champion I played. I've only recently started tracking which champions I played, since it 2-starred anyways.
Every 14th card.
And so the whole point of this is that I do a lot of data analysis for my day job, and I'm a data head in that regard, and I want to have access to figure out what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right in terms of what I'm picking in drafts, what strategies I'm going for, and then some environmental information, like should I not be drafting at 1 o'clock in the morning? Am I doing worse or better then? There's a good reason why I might be doing worse, because I'm really tired, but also I might be doing better because there's a lot of drunk people playing Hex at the same time. This is something similar I would do when I was playing online poker quite a bit, is that I want to know when the highest returns were for my continued play, and whether or not that was me who was affected by it, or if it was the player base and just random factors. The comments about note-taking screenshots are excellent. You should do both of those when you're playing competitive events, and you would do it in a paper game, and you need to do it in a digital game too if you want to get the most out of your experience. Even if your memory is good, we know human memory is terrible. Even the best memories are faulty, and so it's probably a good habit just to write things down, because at the very least it reinforces your memory, and at best it means if you forget, it's right there for you.
Yeah, writing things down in a traditional paper card game is a foreign concept to a lot of people who don't play hyper competitively at tournaments and stuff. Even when I did play at tournaments, I didn't really see a lot of people writing stuff down. And when they did, a lot of people gave them kind of the stink eye of the, how dare you cheat? But it's not really, it's just information you can know if you just have a good enough memory, right? But now you're just sitting in front of your computer. No one's going to give you any stink eye for, taking screenshots or writing anything down. So go ahead, do it all you want.
Well, the best reason to do a paper event is that generally judges will refer to a paper record as opposed to what players say happened. And so it's a protection against cheating. And we actually do something similar in our digital tournaments, is that if you have streamed the tournament or if you have screenshots, then we'll refer to those as additional evidence on how we can make a ruling, if we can make a ruling in your favor or not. And so I generally encourage that as well. And I guess to go along with Penta, what he's saying is that another thing that probably helps you is to stream, because people will be able to discuss with you your misplays and talk about what options you have. So streaming, even if you're terrible at the game, even if you're okay at the game, can increase your ability to play well because you have other eyes on what you're doing. On the other hand, it also can be incredibly distracting, and trying to interact with the audience can lead to misplays as well.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. Always bear in mind, especially when watching a streamer, that, if they're telling you everything that they're doing, chances are they're not doing it to the best of their ability. There's been 100 times I can think of where I made a misplay, and I was just like, yep, I just clicked the button too fast because I was worried about getting to the next point in my head. And, yeah.
And then you have 50 people in chat going, why didn't you do X?
Yeah.
So it's talking to you.
And then that's actually another good point about streaming is, like, if you watch the chat, a lot of the time, if I play X card into X card, and then 40 seconds later, the entire chat's like, why didn't you play Y card? It's just like, well, because this, like, you get to hear why they would play Y card and why I did play X card, or why, you know, G Prime or Infamous Neo or Function Fails or Codex Reaper or Sithos, or there's a bajillion streamers. Go watch them all. I'm not going to go through the entire list of Hex streamers, but, like, you get the point.
The other two lessons from poker that I strongly advise, if your goal is to sit down and having
Always keep aces.
a winning session, is to make sure you are in your best condition possible to win. That is, you are well rested, you're not tired, and you're distraction free. Not being intoxicated generally means you're going to be playing better, unless you're a terrible player that maybe being intoxicated will lead to better plays or better picks. But if you're tired, you have a lot of things going around you, you're watching a movie, listening to podcasts, you're interacting with the stream, and you're intoxicated, you're probably not going to be able to do as well as if you were sober and did not have these things distracting you.
That doesn't mean turn the podcast off if you're in the middle of a draft, guys. Mike didn't mean that. In fact, listening to us while you play, probably positive EV.
Possibly. And
probably.
So, I mean, some people have different utility functions where they want to enjoy themselves while they're playing, and so they would rather have the distractions. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, though you're probably not playing your best game. If your goal is to make it the best 2 or 3 hours you have and do the best you can, then you want to eliminate these other things that are going to decrease your play.
And don't forget that it's 2 or 3 hours. Even if you're in a competitive draft, always make sure you have enough time to play the entire draft, because if you put that time pressure on yourself and there's rounds that are just out of your control, you're going to find yourself getting agitated and making mistakes.
Also, kind of relevant is, like, really hard to play a digital TCG with no distractions. When I'm playing a paper TCG, I don't have the internet in front of me. Just an odd random thought. Yeah. Just kind of, I alt-tab to a lot of websites. Like, I'm just like, oh, let's go load up a YouTube video. Oh, let's check who's streaming. Let's check the show notes for next week's podcast. Oh, Mike hasn't done them until an hour before the show. Oh, well.
Well, with poker, you are also self-distracting by, you wouldn't just play one table. You would play 4, 8, or 16 tables if you're insane. And you're making the conscious calculation. You have the internet in front of you, but the internet's not distracting because you're playing so many poker games at once. And you're trying to make the decision, can I play another table at the same time and take another EV hit, but overall still be in the positive because I add a positive EV for all the tables I'm playing on, even though I'm not playing as optimally as I can. And with Hex, you're only playing one table, you're only playing one tournament, and so any other distraction you're engaged in is going to be negative EV for Hex, but it may be giving you benefit somewhere else. And so you want to think, why am I doing the things I'm doing? What is my goal in this next couple hours? Is it to win the draft, or is it to do as well as I can the draft while also watching the interview on Netflix? Because they hate us, because they ain't us.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because they ain't us.
I knew.
Haters gonna hate. Ain'ters gonna ain't.
Yep, they hate us because they ain't us.
So, which was probably the number one and the only one on the list. Good part about that movie was that one line.
So let's go ahead and open the pack to conclude the episode. So
I'm taking the Phoenix Guard Enforcer.
Okay. The pack, the rare is a Jankbot.
My name is Michael Allen. You can find me in game as
Batman. The Jankbot, though this originally was a Born of the Flame again, I wanted to make sure we had a different discussion than last week, though we got a lot of really good comments about last week, so... But we don't need the same rare twice in a row. In case you care, you could pretend it was there. So Jankbot, our uncommons are Royal Valkyr, Inductocopter Bot, and Moonmach. Our commons are Augmented Awakening, Boulder Toss, Fish Hands, Wretched Wrangler, Construction Plans Hornbot, Tormented Ritualist, Rune Ear Burrower, Crackling Rock, Construct Foreman, Feeding the Young Ones, and Phoenix Guard Enforcer. Wow, this is a fantastic pack compared to last week or last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Penta, you can go first.
Miller, you go, what?
I was about to tell Matt he could go first. I never get to go first in the drafting from a... I haven't had time to think. I don't know what to tell. I don't know how to tell you about 5 cards that I'm not going to pick. Jankbot, the rare in the pack. I would love to say that Jankbot is something I would play. If I was trying to be competitive, no, I would avoid it. Chances are I'll pass that Jankbot to somebody who already has one. They will get 2, and they will absolutely destroy me. Not fun. Don't like Jankbot. Royal Valkyr, kind of strong. Forces an archetype. Inductocopter Bot, pretty strong. Shardless, pretty good. Not removal like Boulder Toss or Crackling Rot. Not a strong game-winning card on its own like Tormented Ritualist, which is considerably powerful. And not my favorite archetype, which is play 7 Augmented Awakenings and don't care about removal. So in this pack, there's a lot of strong picks.
Yep.
And I think I would go... Pack 1, pick 1. The Tormented Ritualist and the Crackling Rot are going to make people fight over blood. I don't think I can pick one of those and be fine, so I think I have to take... I think I want to take Boulder Toss. I'm going to take the Inductocopter Bot and stay open. There's a lot of great cards in the pack. I think Boulder Toss, Tormented Ritualist, Rot, Jankbot, Valkyr, I think they're all first pickable, but...
Matt, give us your top 2 picks.
Of all the cards you could have just randomly put in the rare, you put Jankbot. I don't know why. I'm taking Jankbot, because, like...
Really?
I'm going to take Jankbot until I win a draft with my Jankbot deck.
Oh, you haven't done that yet?
I haven't done it yet.
Gross.
So...
Shun the
until I do,
Shun.
Jankbot's going to be my first pick. All day, every day. And then hopefully I'm going to get that second one that Penta passed. And then wreck.
I hope so.
And then wreck. Because that...
Maybe you'll go up against the Dimension Daisy. I swear to you, like 3 or 4 nights ago, right before the arena stuff came out, I had 7 Dementia Daisies, 3 Murmurs, Ogth, Counters, Verdicts, Time Ripples. My deck was solid. Like 4 Crackling Wits in there as well. Round 1 Jankbot deck with Robotic Rapture in hand. Just I buried his Jankbot, he Robotic Raptured it back, and I was like, okay, great. Just good time.
Good time.
Good games.
Yeah,
good times. I got through over 100 cards before he eventually Jankbotted me to death. I was like, no.
Yeah, Barry decks don't like seeing Jankbot decks in round 1.
They don't like seeing decks that beat them, which are a lot of decks.
Yeah, no, but like it should be worth noting that was not a Barry deck that should have ever lost a 40-card matchup. Like it was very, very good.
I have lost with a Jankbot deck in Constructed in the Proving Grounds to a Barry deck. I applauded the guy. I was like, well done.
Those kind of Barry decks are built to bury like actually 40 cards at a time, kind of thing.
7th or 8th Chronic Madness, right? Was the killer?
Yeah, right. Like at that
the
point,
32
like,
card
okay.
one.
What's your second card?
Boulder
Matt?
Toss.
Quit delaying
Because it's removal and it's in Ruby, which there isn't a lot of here that is not in an archetype that I really want to be in anyway. So
the reason I've stopped taking Boulder Toss as highly as I used to, never really get the troops I want with it. Hard to get many troops with more than 4 attack. I realize that 4 attack with a Boulder Toss is usually pretty good already. But the combination of having to have them and the Boulder Toss has felt a little less reliable to me than Crackling Rot, Tormented Ritualist, or Augmented Awakening would in this pack.
Most of the times I picked up Boulder Toss, I end up in Dwarves, and I'm Boulder Tossing for 1 or 2 or 3 sometimes.
Yeah,
but I haven't been sad about that. Boulder Tossing for 1 actually has been fine a lot of times.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still valuable in those situations. Like, it's never bad, air quotes, unless you don't have troops on the board. But like in this pack specifically, if this whole pack comes around, like if 7 people are just like, I don't even want a card here, Royal Valkyrie is theoretically the best card. Like, well, I guess Jankbot. Well, no, you don't get a trigger Jankbot by doing it. Royal Valkyrie is, kind of okay. Construct Foreman potentially gives you a 3/3 to use it with, and Construction Plan's Hornet Bot is a 2/1. You know, Runier Burrower is the biggest troop in the pack, maybe sometimes. You know, like, it's kind of hard to find those big troops in set 2.
So pick one for me is going to be the Royal Valkyrie. We've had this conversation a couple podcasts ago with Judgment Jedi on the podcast, so maybe it was a month ago.
Yeah, and you guys both took the Royal Valkyrie.
I mean, I'm still happy going in humans, and this card is just such a huge... It can change the way the game's going, because you get to remove something, you get something on the board, and you draw a card. So, that's the easy first pick for me. The second pick, then... Man, becomes a lot more difficult because I've already mentioned several times I prefer going dwarves if I have the option open, which means I would take either Inductocopter, Boulder Toss, Construction Plan's Hornet Bot, or Construct Foreman are all high picks, decent picks for dwarves. Inductocopter is fantastic because it gives you the charge, but also it's one to flyers, and dwarves don't have as many flyers as they would in set 1. Because in set 1 dwarves, you would be drafting a lot more of the Mystics of the Tranquil Dreams and other things that are just flying that can deal with things like the Mosquito, which gets really annoying in 2-2-1 format. But you also have the Construction Plan's Hardbot to do that. I think I take the Boulder Toss here, though. But if I take the Boulder Toss here, I don't think I'm going to be able to get into dwarves. Because there's going to be at least 2 other dwarf players at the table.
I don't know. People
What are you
hate
talking
those
about?
foremen.
No one drafts
dwarves.
dwarves.
Yes. Yeah, no. Every single.
I've always faced a dwarf opponent round 1 in my drafts lately.
Yeah, no. Like there's 2 types of drafts that happened recently. There's nobody was drafting dwarves and everyone should have, or everyone drafted dwarves and now it's trash. There are times where you're the only... I think I said this like several times on the podcast now, so forgive me for repeating myself. There's times where you get to pack 3 and you're just like, Gearsmith, Tarotbot, Volcanon, Gearsmith, Tarotbot, oh, 8th pick Volcanon. Oh, my Researcher Adept came around. Oh, how am I going to fit all of... How do I hold all of these cards?
I had 23 cards coming in here because nobody was in dwarves.
Nobody was in dwarves. I've got 6 crank rockets. I'm going to fire that thing all day. It's like the 4th of July up in here. That I had to adjust for our American audiences because we don't celebrate the 4th of July up in here in Canada.
Why don't you celebrate our independence?
What do you fire?
Why don't we celebrate? We celebrate 3 days earlier so that we can be rested just in time to go south of the border.
What do you fire your fireworks off for?
Anything we want, really. Just the couple have gone off since we were here. I don't know why they fired off, but people were having fun.
Hockey Night in Canada. Boom!
So my third pick for this pack...
No, it is not Friday.
Oh, sorry.
Well, wait.
It is Friday.
Maybe that's why they were going off.
My third pick for this draft is a little
release.
bit more difficult because I'm really tempted to look at Blood, and I would want to take the Torment Ritualist, but given a choice between Torment Ritualist and Crackling Rock, I have to take the Crackling Rod, which makes me a little bit sad.
No, you don't. You absolutely don't have to.
Given those choice in pack 1 pick, when the Crackling Rod is almost always a better pick.
Theoretically the better pick, yeah.
But I think I may want to force dwarves if I see this many dwarf cards coming around to me as a third pack. Yeah, I'm probably going dwarves here. And man, I hate to pick another card that someone else has already picked, but I think the Inductocopter is probably the right choice. What would be the other ones? Construct Foreman's fine, but I can get those late. Hornetbot goes around more than it should. So, yeah, I guess I'm taking the Inductocopter.
The Jankbot's still there.
Jankbot's still there.
That's a dwarf card.
Yeah, I would not seriously consider that card ever.
Enemy of fun.
Enemy of losing.
I am taking the Construct Foreman because, as you said, I can get more later, and everyone I get is pure 3/3 attacking when they thought all they had to deal with was 1/1 defending worker bot. So,
Penta, didn't you have some draft or something where you just got wrecked by a turn 1 or turn 2 double Construct Foreman?
Yeah. Last night I played. Might have been 2 nights ago. I don't remember. Yeah, it had to be like 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago. It was recent. It was before the arena was up, which has just been a blur since then. My opponent in Limited
in limited draft, where he had a 40-card deck and pulled his cards randomly out of a deck. You know, like, this wasn't a constructed game. Turn 1 threw whatever card he wanted back to his deck so that he could play a Forge of Kadok into a Ruby Shard, into exhausting his... he played the Hex Geode, but he exhausted his Forge of Kadok first, so that he could play another the Hex Geode and then double Construct Foreman. And then later that night, I played somebody else who Forge of Kadok'd into a single Construct Foreman against me, and I was just like, really? That I'm going to see that same play in round 1 twice? That opponent actually used the Sir Giles robot bug to... I think he would have won even if he hadn't used the bug, but he was knowingly using the bug, and I was just like, oh, that's...
And you told him in chat that he should uninstall the game, and you're just bitter towards him?
No, I think I gave him a colon and a backslash, because the first time he did it, I thought he was like, okay, maybe he's just doing this by mistake. The next time he did it, he had 3 dwarves on board and an Inductocopter bot, and played his Charge of Power on the Inductocopter bot, and I was like, okay, cool beans.
So Penta, you have 2 picks left for us?
Right, I think the Tormented Ritualist is a stupidly good card in multiples, and I think having 3 of them is where I want to be. So grabbing one this early is actually more valuable to me than a Crackling Rot, because what I'm hoping is that anybody who would be willing to play the Augmented Awakening would then go and grab the Crackling Rod and maybe the Feeding the Young Ones, maybe ignore the Augmented. I don't expect to get the Augmented Awakening back unless the Diamond player is just too entranced by the Royal Valkyr, and even if they aren't, that's kind of what I'm hoping for on the wheel there. That doesn't mean the Augmented Awakening is my next pick. It's only my next pick if I get the Tormented Ritualist. If I don't have that, I'm going Crackling Rod.
Do you normally play Blood Diamond with Ritualist?
I really do like playing Blood Diamond in general. I think it's my highest win rate draft combination, because the Benoshi style of sacrificing troops and... Oh, don't refer me to that name. No, we don't do that. Friends don't do that. Don't worry about what I was just saying. Its show notes were very offensive for a second. The Call of the Graves, Augmented Awakenings, and Mentors of the Grave available to Blood Diamond are just hilariously good. Like, if you don't get inner conflicted or mesmerized, you generally can, or, uncommonly removed, you can generally just get whatever you had back, and they have so many good ways of staying in the game or pushing through damage. Tormented Ritualist gets damaged through very easily. Giant Mosquito not only gets damaged through super easily because it's a flight troop and there's so little flight, but as a 3/3 if you Benoshi onto him, and as a 5/5 if you've Benoshi'd he's been removed and you Augmented Awakening, he is one of the best life drain troops in the game. There's also the potential of playing Augmented Awakening and replaying your cheap Blood Diamond troops, and Blood Diamond tends to have the best cheap troops in 2-2-1. IMHO, there are good Ruby troops, cheap troops for sure, and I'm sure there's awesome wild ones as well, but the combination of Blood Diamond overall, just insane success for me.
Right. So that's our pack. Do you have any final thoughts, Penta, about the episode or anything else?
I'm super happy that we're getting to talk more about drafts lately, and that, hopefully we can do like a draft and a constructed topic every now and then. And it was cool to talk about the tournament today. The arena. Hopefully you guys got your fill of the arena by the time this is out. If you haven't, it will probably be coming around again. Obviously, for reasons I think I mentioned earlier, we won't be seeing a public test realm always available. And in case I didn't mention it and you're just not thinking about it, if a public test realm was always available, people would just go and play their games on there and test their decks there instead of investing in cards on the live server, which would be bad for the game.
Yeah, one of the reasons you do limited windows like this is you get concentrations of players, so you get a lot of players on there, and you hit that you hit the software in ways that you don't normally. If it was open 24/7 for weeks, you would have an initial hit, but then it would just even out, and you'd have just a couple people. Like you said, people just would stop playing on the live shard and just play on the test shard, and it's something that you just don't want to do. And if you keep it limited like this, then you can give people a taste, and then when you put it back up, and I really do hope that we get another weekend.
I bet we'll see it. I bet we're going to see it at least once
before it comes out.
Before it goes live. Yeah.
So I really do hope we get one, so we can all see progress. We'll all jump right back on. Maybe there'll be some new champions. Who knows? It's insanity.
Yeah.
Maybe more equipment will work. Yay!
Just as an example, just as a funny thought, we would have literally no reason to run the Ruby Cup on live servers if the public test realm was open. Because the demand to use the public test realm would be so great that we wouldn't be able to avoid it. Sure, we could actually avoid it, and I'm sure we would. I would beg Mike not to let us do it on the PTR, because that would be so bad for the game. But, everyone would just be like, well, why don't we do it? We have all the cards there. It runs exactly the same. I don't understand.
There's probably new bugs in it. That'd be the biggest reason not to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, Matt, were those your final thoughts as well?
No, I have one final thought. I wanted to thank Gaius Marcus for proclaiming his love for G Prime and forcing Zubrin to sit him out for a week, giving me the chance to come on. So thanks, Mark.
Well, we extended by 1 week, and G Prime wasn't going to be on. We were not planning on having him on for another 6 weeks, so now he's back 7 weeks, I think.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Alright, well then, my name has been and will continue to be Michael Allen. You can find me in-game as Zubrin and on Twitch and Twitter as Zubrin_Alpha. Nicholas Pedrasky is Pentachills on Twitch, Twitter, and in-game. And Matt Miller's Deck of Many Things in-game and MMO Designer and many other places. For any updates on us streaming when we post a show or other happenings in the Hex community, follow us on Twitter at 2 Turns Ahead or 5 Shards, or leave a comment on the show's post at 2turnsahead.com on Reddit, or even email us at 2turnsahead@gmail.com. As an aside, the email we got about drafts had some fantastic suggestions, and we will take suggestions for topics. We are always looking for new ideas to talk about on the show. Finally, if you want automatic updates, please subscribe to us on iTunes, and if you feel inclined, give us a positive rating on the iTunes store. Rating the podcast will give other viewers a better chance of discovering the podcast on iTunes and help us grow the Hex community. Thank you for listening.
Stay lucky and leave us a comment on YouTube. Yay!
Oh yes, we have the YouTubes.
We have the YouTubes. We forgot to say that, but we do that. The Stay Lucky.
We also forgot to plug 5 Shards.
No, I said Stay Lucky.
We
We're
forgot
done.
to plug 5 Shards.
No.
All cast.
Oh, yeah. Go 5 Shards.
5shards.com.